Hello, beautiful human. I'm Zach. That is Dan. And we welcome to the studio today a singer, a songwriter, a human being who creates extraordinarily raw and vulnerable music. A New Jersey native, Gigi Perez.
Yay!
Thank you.
Yay.
Very sweet introduction.
You are very, very special. Your ability to write songs and relate, but also your ability to share your own life through lyrics is very, 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 very respected. Because to live that true and that vulnerably is very, very hard. Plus, your journey in this music industry has been really crazy. I mean, just in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, it's just to get, like, can you describe the last 18 months to me?
It's been.
You can take a deep breath.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, now, like, we're getting to the point, the album's about to come out. So it's been really tight gear in terms of, what does every day look like. So there's a lot of focus. And I think zooming out, when you're asked that question, it's like, there's a sense of like, this is real, It's like, this is a real feeling. And I think my life just looked very different 18 months ago. Just my circumstances and where my life was heading.
How would you describe where it was heading?
I think it was heading in a way, like, if I look at the end of 2023, I think in a lot of ways there were things that were happening in my career where it didn't seem like the right thing. And there were a lot of heartbreaks and disappointments and just in life in general. But it was exactly that clean break that I needed into, just drifting. Because I was very absent from, I guess, of whatever this career in music is. It was very different. I was independent, I started out independent, signed, and then I left.
Your story's wild.
Went independent again, and now I'm back.
But you realize that
back in the ring.
But in that moment, you're realizing that things don't happen to you. Like, they do happen for you sometimes. Because
100%.
You describe this relationship of being independent. You release 2 incredible records that are, I mean, when you look at Celene, when you look at Backwood, what is your relationship like with those records today?
Celene it's special because it was the first grief song I just wrote in general. And I wrote that probably 6 or 7 months after my older sister Celene passed away. And for so long I couldn't write about, I didn't know I was catatonic. And so that's part of why I never officially released the song. So it's on SoundCloud, but I never put it out on streaming. Or, sometimes I'll play it live. I haven't really recently, just for what it means to me, and keeping that. But it was interesting because I wrote Celene and Sometimes Backwood 2 days apart from each other. And at that time I was going to school for music, COVID, the whole story.
And you'd be like every other Berkeley musician who actually makes it and drop out?
Everybody has their own path, but
there's a common thread.
I think there is, in terms of, I think most of us are like, I don't know what I'm going to do because I can't necessarily just go out into the big city and expect to like things to happen. So you go to school because you're like, okay, your parents can digest that a little better,
It's a part of the plan.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm
thing.
going to school,
Yeah.
Even though to a lot of people it just doesn't really make sense to go to school for, and I get it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was a weird time, and those 2 songs were a bucket of glitter during an otherwise devastating time in my life and my family's life. It really was something that came in and gave me something to look forward to, And I think that was so when it didn't work out, the way that I wanted it to, or the way that I thought I needed it to. Even though those, you know, those feelings of grief or any of those things, they never went away. If anything, they've continued to get bigger, you know, the more that time passes for me. But I think it was like that kind of sense of I was looking for this experience that I had in life to not be the defining thing. I wanted to move forward and to, you know, pursue the thing that I love the most, and, you know, not be the girl or, you know, the family where everybody like looks at like them with like that tragic thing that happened to them. And I think when that disappointment happened and I ended up just, you know, packing my bags and moving back to Florida, it was a hard defeat, but it was, you know, it was the best thing to kind of recenter and where everything would fall. Because I think there was just so much good that I found in the quiet. I think just my perspective has changed a lot on it.
I mean, you would get quite possibly the biggest song in your career won't be forever, but you write a song that changes your life while you're home in Florida, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sailor Song is, I mean, that's a game-changing record on many levels.
Mm-hmm.
But you could, I mean, there has to be a part of you that believes that the only reason you got that song was from the silence, from
100%.
the freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that I just became so unfocused on anything that I think when I entered everything at first and like you get into the first record deal and you're like in it and you're exposed to an entirely new way of being, a new language, an environment, you know, when all you really did in the past was just like write songs. If you're not in the right soil, if you're not around the right people, those kinds of things, it just...
You won't grow.
That, and also it just like is not... It's not the place to be. And I think removing all of it, like everything, all of it, I just actually got to sit with what really mattered. And I think that was a lot of my frustration my first time around, is I knew a lot of this didn't matter, you know, like I just was in situations where I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. Like everything always feels like there's a million tons of weight, you know. I feel like I'm under like the craziest like gravity right now. And versus I'm like, I have no gravity because there's nothing to do, you know, except for like learn how to record and produce. And so that was my goal. And I think in that I found a lot of new different sides of my grief that I think naturally just like came because, you know, I'm shifting from a time where it was more recent to like how does it affect you long term? Like how does it affect you in all of your relationships long term? How does it affect you when you view yourself in the mirror and think about your age? You know, like arrested development, like that kind of stuff. And I think being able to sit with all of that for the past year, you know, it really came back to a place of understanding and getting to experience those negative feelings. But when I was writing the songs or when I was with my family or my friends, those things were so bearable. And there was so much happiness. There was so much happiness in being able to be alone and to also know that like your family is enough and your life as it is enough. So, I mean, I take everything now as an incredible blessing to just share with others and learn from them as well and what they've experienced. But I don't have any like rose-colored glasses or like a perception of what I think an experience should be, you know, as whatever they sell you, you know.
What drives you to pursue music on a bigger scale, and I picked this up on what you when you were speaking, was this idea of like not allowing. I mean, I pick up two things, right? You mentioned not letting grief define your family, right? So that's something fueling your success. But also your sister's talent is within you and makes it out on these records. So it's almost like she is a part of this journey with you in a very deep way.
Right.
So is that what fueled you to get here to begin with?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, when I was younger and we were in elementary school, she did the plays and stuff. I think her first role was like Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast.
Well, the hardest role in the show.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
Vocals all day.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. She bodied it. And I remember like being like a townsperson or whatever with like a like very low ponytail. There's like some picture somewhere. It's crazy. But I just enjoyed watching her. And I remember when I was in 6th grade, I was kind of like in this stage of like, I don't want to do it, you know, but I didn't make the soccer team. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing the play. And so I just continued like down the road of like kind of always kind of like not, I don't know, kind of push and pulling between musical theater. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And even today, it's like, I think like a complex relationship. And I look back and I understand. I was like, well, you know, I didn't, you know, find myself in a lot of these stories. You know, I grew up like the very chubby, overweight girl. So like, you know, that was like not something that I resonated with, but I still loved the music, you know? And Celene, she was like an incredible opera singer. You know, she was like winning state competitions at 13 years old and, you know, just a beast. And I think that there is a sense of, I'm doing this for us. And it's a very interesting, complicated thing to live with because this was, you know, her dream was this way before it was mine. I just fell into the fact that I liked writing music. And I was like, I realized one day that I was taking up so much of my time and I wasn't going to sleep for so many nights that, you know, then I was like, oh, this means I'm going to do this forever, you know, but I didn't go in. I wasn't like a kid like, oh, I can't wait to, you know, to be a singer one day. You know, that was my sister. She always wanted that. And for me, this was more of like, I fell in love with it and realized I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
What was the first song you ever wrote?
The one that I remember was this song called Dreams. And I feel like that's like so many people's first song. Like it's like Dreams. But it was this song called Dreams and it was on the ukulele.
Classic.
Yeah, it was on the ukulele. It's 2015. You had to be there. It really was. I was 15 years old. And it goes, maybe when I'm in my dreams, we'll stay up counting sheep. Like, I've grown. I've really come a long way, you know? And the stars don't compare to your eyes in front of me. Like, it was a whole, and I was so proud of it, and I loved it. That was the first song. And many different tunings later, figured it out.
Is that a part of your dream pop band that you formed with your friends?
Oh, no. I mean, listen, the what happened in 2 years between 15, like what I was writing at 15 to 17, huge jump.
Really?
You know? Yeah, I
How
don't know.
many songs do you think you write in that period?
At that point, I started to wonder how many songs have I written because I started to realize it was so many. I don't think I could be so off the mark. It could be from hundreds, but I don't know.
So if you didn't really want to be a singer, was your main fuel wanting to be a writer?
It just was that I didn't think about what I was going to be in life. You know, like...
But you were writing songs.
Yeah, like I was just like, I like doing this now. You know, I like doing this now. And then one day, I think... So, and it was a quick turnaround. So it was like 15 started writing, you know, doing the like, you know, staying up at night on Tumblr and like losing your mind over your sexuality and all those things. And then I think it was the next year where like usually they would start doing like college camps, like preparing, like what are you going to do? And so people were starting to have this conversation. It was like, oh, totally, I'm doing this. You know what I mean? And so it was like a nice realization because I didn't have to worry. You know, I didn't question what I was going to do because I knew it was that.
Because you had been working towards it.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying, the first time I played the first chord, I wasn't like, I can hear the bells, you know?
I meant to do this for the rest of my life. When did you realize that?
I think it was the afterthought of all the nights accumulated. And it was the realizing how much I understood. I went from being very confused and very lost to understanding myself very well.
And does that come through in the writing? Is that how you can tell?
Yeah, because I think that it was like when I started writing, I was very deeply in the closet and I was very scared. I grew up going to, in the 6th grade, I started going to a private Christian school. And that's a very specific experience in itself. Mm-hmm. And I was very scared. And the only person that I could tell was myself. And I would even I would write things in code when I couldn't say it to myself. You know, so it's like I'm not even putting it down on the paper or you know, I'm in the notes app, but I'm not actually saying the pronoun I want to say, you know, but I know. And so I think it was, I discovered myself and was able to be honest with myself because I was writing about it. And so now it's fascinating to me because, and I think that's why it's important to, you know, always talk about the experiences of what, because I think everybody's experience is different with their sexuality. But for me, I think it's important to remember that because I grow up and I move out of it and I come to a place where for many years I feel very comfortable with myself. But there's so many kids everywhere around the world here, you know, that they're living that same thing still. And I think that as we get older, if we don't turn around, we can forget that still exists.
It's true. And by the way, like the times we're in, setting us way back, way back. It's really frightening. I used to talk about like a moment in time where like people didn't need to come out because the idea of like straight people coming out is ridiculous. Like you know what I mean? Like you didn't need that. And now I fear that we have only gone backwards in the deepest ways.
I know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's horrible. And I think now is just the time more than ever to just continue to talk about it, continue to scream about it.
What does Tumblr do? Maybe I'm just not familiar. How does Tumblr help?
I felt so landlocked by my life as a 15-year-old, 14-year-old in Florida. You know, I went to church like sometimes 2 times a week, you know, on top of, you know, if it was you know, every other week we would have chapel on Thursday. So it was like sometimes I was going to church 3 times a week, you know, and it was different. It was like I went to the American church. I went to like the more like the Spanish church, which is like a whole other, there were lots of, you know, different versions of Christianity existing all of the time around me. And at its peak, it was 12 through 16. And Tumblr, my queen, was the place where I was like on my phone on Tumblr. I'm like just like looking at like city lights, you know, and foggy mirror glasses and like, you know, like, and for some reason it did something to me where I was like, I need to go to there. Like I need to go to that place. And it got me through. And like, you know, you get to see other, you know, you're seeing like cool lesbians with like cool tattoos, like, and they're like kissing and you're like, this, like, you can't even fathom like what it's like to kiss a girl, You know what I mean? It's so far from you at that point. And so it was escapism, totally. And it worked. I'd be on my iPad in English class. Like
Just scrolling.
yes, we'd be reading a book and I'm like literally like on Tumblr right now.
A portal into a reality that you wanted.
Yeah,
you desired.
exactly. So it was like, I mean, it was English class too, so I think it worked out.
Hayley Kiyoko's Girls Like Girls had a part in your...
Oh my God, well, yeah, that's a whole part of the whole Tumblr thing. Like, yes. Now my heart rate is just like, I love that music video. I watched it very recently. It changed everything. It was there for all of us. We needed that. I needed it. And Hayley's a wonderful person. And, you know, I think the story that she was telling during that time was everything that I needed. You know, it was Hayley Kiyoko, it was that album, and it was Blue Neighborhood by Troye. You know.
So true.
Like that's like and it was everything. Like I held on to them like you could not take that away from me.
Blue Neighborhood changed my life. Yeah.
I know.
Fantastic body of work. So what's your relationship with religion like now?
Ooh, interesting. It's an interesting one. I think that, you know, as we were talking about earlier, like I think part of it having that time where, you know, every single day you can think about yourself and your life. You're not, you know, traveling or, you know, there's a lot of space that opens up. And I noticed that there was this really big hole in the way that I view life. And I think part of that comes from growing up very certain that there is a God and that there is a savior. You know, I think those were things that I just believed so fully. Even when I realized my sexuality, I still had this sense of like, Jesus is real, you know, to me, like in my mind. And I think that as the years went on after my sister passed away, I think like life has just like stopped making any sense. Like I feel like I have like some sort of like really have a hard time trying to grasp how any of this is real. Like very, I don't know. Something doesn't make sense to me in the whole story now. And I always question, but I think the thing that really drove it, like for me to believe that thing was that I felt it. Like I had the physical, I had that like feeling, you know, and I've experienced things that are that feel like miracles or miraculous or, you know, that divine thing.
Like what?
I think it's in how things happen or come together, or in situations when you are speaking to someone and you can't believe what they just said. Because I've always spoken to, you know, God, the universe, even if it's not considered prayer,
No,
you know,
dude,
through
all versions of prayer.
Yeah, exactly. So that's always existed, but my relationship to understanding what it is, like, that's the thing that I'm... And as you can see, even just the way that I speak about it, it's like this giant, it feels like a giant bulletin board with like so many dots, but like you don't know how to connect them. And yeah, so I've felt this sense of divinity, but through how is that, like, what is the lens? I don't know. And I think that sometimes I struggle with just the story of of creation and the story of free will. You know, where do these things come from? And
Why do bad things happen?
Yeah, and like why are we here? You know, and it always fascinated me because I have some close friends where they're so accepting over that. You know, it doesn't really it's not a big question. Or even if it is, it's not something that's gonna ruin their day. For me, it ruins my day. You know?
Did you get hyper fixated on finding the answer?
Yeah, I think so, because I think it's and that's what a lot of this album is about. It's until I reach a place of acceptance of some sort, or at least knowing now that I'm working on that, you know, through deconstructing, or just looking and being open and having that conversation with that divine thing, hoping that I'm just trying to be a sponge of everything to be able to find something that works for me, you know, because I'm not there yet, but I want to find something that works for me. I don't want to be riddled with anxiety. And I think a lot of that, you know, ultimately comes from just the trauma. You know, I've lost a lot of people. So, you know, it wasn't just my sister. I lost my uncle when I was 17 and my grandmother right before that. You know, it was 6 weeks apart. You know, and we were such a close-knit family, and it's that, you know, people that you see every day are just gone. And I think that on top of the years and years of the doomsday approach of religion and being 12 and trying to conceptualize forever, you know, eternal life, trying to conceptualize hell, trying to conceptualize the rapture.
Crazy.
You know, one day you're just you know, be on the good terms, or you know, you might be in the car and everybody's gonna be gone. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to drive the car, girl. It's a lot, but then it's also, you know, comes in with that also beautiful fascination for life and you know, how intricate life is, and what do I attribute that to? Because everybody has a different thing, and of course science is science, and we love science because it goes completely hand in hand with those things. But you know, I think that there's just been a lot of different ideas shoved into this bottle in my head. And so it's just about figuring it out.
Does At the Beach in Every Life and creating this album help you in figuring it out or bring you any step
100%.
closer to acceptance?
Yeah, I think so. And I think especially with the song Fable, Fable, you know, it came after Sailor Song because at that point, in the silence, in the, you know, I left the record label. I moved back to Florida, had nothing going on. That question gets bigger and bigger. And part of why that happened is because I was just staying up on and off, unable to sleep. It's 4 or 5 a.m., just spiraling over this thing. And it was weird because it's I don't know. And I had those things happen to me before, but it was just so consistent and so gnawing now that I was there is something really wrong. Which, you know, through all this, I've had therapy most of the time, which is great. Therapy is, that's why I'm standing here. But I think it was I really realized how much how I acknowledge and experience love through the lens of being so confused about everything else and dealing with my grief. I feel it specifically colors love differently and how you love someone. And I think that, you know, with Sailor Song was a time where I was looking at this person as a means of like, you're like the only thing that I can hold on to. Nothing around like this reality, this plane that I'm in. I don't get it, you know, but I'm going to tell myself this, and I'm going to tell myself that you're this thing to me, you know, and I don't believe in God. And that was said with defeat, you know, and a lot of people took that as like an arrogance of like these, you know, these people like, you know, polluting, you know, being classified as worldly, you know, by, you know, Christian, like a specific kind of Christian, and like being classified as so many things that like you were raised to rebuke is like crazy, you know. It's a very, it's interesting, but I think that I found so many people that understand what I'm talking about. And I think when you know, experience or have the experience long enough, you're able to like deal with it on your own. So it wasn't until I realized more people came forward that I was like, oh, I don't have to experience this alone.
Is that the first time you realized that through Sailor Song?
Mm-hmm.
Really, that mutual understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I think in you know, my friendships at points, different points, yes, but I also feel like a lot of my friends have grown into their, you know, the ones that have similar backgrounds to me, and like we went to the school together. We all have our own different beautiful rainbow of what happened to us, but I think that more so recently, feeling a little bit disconnected from the experiences and seeing how sometimes I feel like maybe others have adapted better, you know? And I think that, again, I probably wouldn't be on this like Zelda quest to figure it out had my sister not passed away. I just think it's like I can't run from this really big thing inside of me.
Like, what is figuring it out, though?
I literally don't know.
You don't know. But isn't that life?
Yeah. It is.
Like, what does the feeling of figure it out even feel like? Will you even know once you figured it out?
I don't think
this,
it's
like,
that. I think
vague thing?
Yeah, I don't think it's that. Maybe I think it's just like I want to have peace. You know?
But what is peace?
I don't know. You know.
Do you ever think like the success you're having is almost like a gift or a sign from your sister?
Yes.
It has to be.
Yes, it's totally her.
Yeah.
You know, I think that there's so many things about our relationship, and like, I don't know. She was such a whimsical person, and like, it always felt like, I don't know, and maybe that's like what it's like having, like, being three sisters. It's like this us and them feeling, you know, because we're all like, had our own, I don't know, like our relationship was beautiful, but I think that having sisters and you know, different ages, like 2 years apart each, like very complicated, you know, and you hurt each other and you say horrible things to each other, you know what I mean? Like, and so I think that because our relationship was so complicated and because my sister was also complicated, it like, I don't know, maybe it's like, I just feel like when I think about her and when I think about everything going on, and I talk about it with my family too, like sometimes I just feel like I'm in a video game, you know?
I get it.
Like, I just almost can't believe it. Like, you wonder, like, was this always, like, how it was supposed to be? And it's like, you don't want to believe that, you know? But I look back at everything. Like, the last time that I spoke to her, like, I was on the phone with her the week before for, like, an hour long. You, like, have those things. Like, I would never call her. You know? You're like, why did that happen? You look back at, like, all those little things and all those little signs are, like, you know, she sang this song all the time growing up. She would sing it. We go on cruises, and she would like body the fuck out of the Royal Caribbean karaoke, like, you know. She would sing "My Heart Will Go On" by Celine Dion, and
Classic.
that is one of the greatest songs of all time, like the greatest songs of all time. And the whole entire song. I mean, we watched Titanic so much. Like, first time I felt real anxiety, like maybe what a panic attack would be. I was probably like 6 years old watching Titanic
On VHS.
Yes, on VHS, on that like tiny ass little square TV.
And it's like 4 VHSs because it's so long.
Yeah, exactly. She would play it all the time, and then it'd always get to that scene, and you're like losing your mind. But she'd always sing "My Heart Will Go On," and you know, I remember hearing it for the first time shortly after, and being like, what the hell is going on? Because if you look at the lyrics for "My Heart Will Go On," like, imagine like you're hearing that all your life. You know, every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. You have come to show. You'll go on, you know, far across the distance, in spaces between us. Like, something about, I'm like, I want to run out of this room. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't feel real. So, you know, though I'll never understand it, I do feel close to something. And I think that the most important thing is, again, and this is part of like, I guess where I've come in my daily peace, is that I feel grounded by the love that I experience here right now, you know, in having a conversation, in talking about it. Because I think a lot of us are dealing with the same things. So.
Yeah. Grief is hard. I lost my best friend now 2 years ago. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't feel her, think about her. I mean, very much consumed by her still. And it is like, dude, grief is like weather. Every day is different. Like, some days could be really, really shitty.
Yep.
And other days it could be really bright and cheery, and the memories are amazing. And then there's days like where you just like, I'll call her and thinking she's going to fucking answer, you know?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And the idea that people just move the fuck on. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's hard to process.
When you say the idea that people move on, what do you mean?
The world just keeps going. The world just keeps going. Trees keep growing. Babies are born. The world keeps spinning. Society keeps moving forward. And it's like, do they even fucking get it?
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, I think a lot of like Crown in particular too, that's such a big piece of that song. And I think part of what I deal with, especially now, like, I think it was just like her 5th birthday very recently. Her birthday's March 7th. And so, and like, the years go on, less people remember. But I feel like how I am, I'm like, I force everybody to remember. And I don't care. Like, I feel like, I struggle with it because I wonder, like, is it too much? Is it not? Whatever. And then I always come back to the point, like, I do this, 1, for her, 2, because it helps me, but also, very importantly, there's other people that feel the same way, that they like can't move from that, and they shouldn't have to. I think until you understand it for yourself, like, it's not really. And I think we feel self-conscious too because it's such a new experience that there isn't a guidebook for. You'd be surprised, people die every single day, but yet people don't really know what to say to you when somebody dies, or, you know, or before you experienced it for yourself, you didn't know what to say to somebody else. Like, you know, it's something that is just like so strange, but at the middle of it is just like, however you need to feel about it and whatever you need to do. And I'm all for that. But I think, yeah, people, it's hard to sit with, like, the world keeps turning.
Crown is about the weight of grief that you carry around you, that you wear upon your head, right? It's not the actual crown of jewels.
Yeah, well, I think Crown is, I guess, how I see it, it's a little bit of like from a place of survivor's guilt. So like the first part of it of that song is an interlude called Survivor's Guilt. Then it goes into Crown.
Which is, it's all instrumental. It's really impactful. Mm-hmm. You tell a story without saying a single word.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I think that, you know, the idea that people, once somebody's gone, then they have things to say about them, or, you know, we love them so much, or we miss them, or, you know, whatever it is that people say. And I think like what's so interesting, and like, again, part of my confusion had, you know, the Bible is the story of Jesus and like where he was at and like why he died, you know, because ultimately, you know, they say he was turned in, and he was turned in by the religious political leaders of his time, and they made fun of him, and they placed a crown of thorns on his head. And so if that's the case, these same people also grieved and asked for forgiveness after the fact. They were like, oh, you know, I messed up. You know, I think about the countless people who like do bad things to people. They bully them. The person takes their life. They're gone. You know, but you're the one that placed that crown on their head. So it's kind of like a double entendre of like, what is like what a crown should be, which is like, you know, adornment. But it's really, you know, it's a mockery.
Where are you at when you write a record like that, or any of these songs? Do you write them alone?
Yeah, I wrote Crown alone. My best friend Aiden, he had the chord progression, and he was playing it, and I was like, Aiden, tell me the tuning. And then I came back to him, I was like, look what I did. And he was like, okay, whatever I was going to do with it. And so, yeah.
You also mentioned, like with Please Be Rude, this idea that like you had this idea of a song and you were afraid that you'd hear a song like it. Mm-hmm. So is there, like, and I only heard you say that because we do this Unpack the Track thing for Amazon Music. But do you believe that some people come in here and they preach this concept that like ideas hang kind of in the cloud above people's heads? And if you don't grab it and make something of it, it will move on to the next person.
That's interesting, because I definitely see why people like think that. I don't know. I think that it's something that came to me that was based upon everything that I've ever consumed in my life that makes me the musician that I am, or makes me hear things the way I am. But there's a sense of like, yes, like I do feel like there's like because there are times where my brain is so off when I'm writing or something, and I'm just like jamming, and then I'm like, well, I don't know what to contribute that to, but there's something intuitive. So it feels like it's a mixture, because I do believe in that divine thing. But yeah, I definitely think that there's certain things, you know, there's probably like theory to it too, which I'm not really a music theory girl, but I'm sure there's like more theory behind why people think that way too.
With a song like Please Be Rude, I mean, that was the first song you ever self-produced. It's also one of your favorite songs you've ever written. Do you feel like you were only able to get this album because you became a producer?
Oh, yes. Oh my God, yes. That changed everything for me.
Like just the process of having to describe or explain this to another person. And like you got to kind of do it yourself, no?
Yeah, I think, you know, recording and producing, it was such a big goal for me coming out of my first record deal.
Why?
Because I don't think anything, like, I had a lot of amazing experiences, especially my first project, you know, the first EP. Like, I experienced a really cool experience that I needed and that I enjoyed.
How to Catch a Falling Knife.
But it wasn't like, I definitely felt like there was something missing. And I think, you know, at first I went from, you know, doing the kind of like in the garage band with my friends in high school. And so we were just like messing around on Ableton and all that kind of stuff. And it went from that, sometimes it was only a voice memo, And I was making kind of like whatever demos, but I didn't really like know about really recording or sound design yet. And then I went from that garage thing to, being in a full real like LA studio. And so it was very different for the kind of musician and artist that I am, and I, of course, had the resources and I took them. And that's what I think that's also the way that you grow, is by trying things and learning what works for you or it doesn't. So I don't regret any of that. I love that project for what it was and what it meant to me at the time. But I definitely knew that it wasn't all there or all me. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go figure out how to do this. And I had no idea really what that meant. I started calling my friends being like, do I need to buy, like, I was like looking at like, physical compressors. You know what I mean?
Like,
I was like, so do I need that big ass thing in my room? And some people were like, yeah, you do. And then I ended up like literally not buying anything. And well, I bought a MIDI keyboard and a microphone that I actually ended up really not using a lot. I stuck with my SM7 for most of the project. And
Classic.
It's amazing. It's an incredible microphone. YouTube, Reddit,
Wow.
called my friends,
You did this whole album that way.
Yeah, well, I learned slowly, like, how to do those things just like through online, which that's like how I learned how to play guitar too, and piano and everything. I just like looked up on the internet. It's all there,
It's true.
And so I just like watched videos and like learned about EQ, which changed so much. I was like, now it sounds good. I remember the first time I played it back, I was like really confused. I had to send it to my friend. I'm like, does this sound good? And they were like, Gigi, what? Because like no one, everybody was surprised. I was surprised. I was like, wait, this is slapping. I'm like, this is slapping. I don't know what's going on. And so even when I put out Please Rude, I'm like, is this actually, I still was like, this is good. I'm confused, but I'm going to put it out. I think I'm right, question mark. And that was a lot of every single time I make a song still, I'm surprised. Like, I'm like, wow, and it's so fun. And it feels kind of how it felt when I was 17. So, just go into the forums and ask the questions and people will tell you,
But that's the feeling, man. To go back to when you were a kid, when you were doing this for the first time, where you like had all confidence, pure naivete, had no idea of cause and effect. Like you had no idea that your words had any power or meaning.
Yeah.
Or, you can express more freely that way.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I think there's also a sense of like, I learned like enough, and then I think maybe if somebody went into my sessions, they'd be like, what is that? Like, what is she? Like, because it's maybe not like the traditional thing, but I think the ultimate thing is like, does it sound good?
Yeah, and it does.
It just needs to sound good.
But it's your language. That's okay. Like if it works for you, that really
exactly.
That's all it needs to work for.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Is your studio like in your bedroom or something?
Mm-hmm.
You should be really proud.
So this whole album was made basically from your room.
Yeah, it was made from my room, and then for the songs that Noah and I did, we did my bedroom, his bedroom.
That's great.
Which he calls his bedroom Subtle Bunny Studios. Well, I wonder, I'm like, does he call it his bedroom or his studio? We'll find out when he sees us.
So what is that relationship like? Are you just sending stuff back and forth?
I mean, it depends on what the song is. For Normalcy, the first song we did together, I went to his house, and that was really fun. It was my first time meeting him. I think I put like an ad, an ad, news ad on TikTok, and I was like, hey, I'm getting into self-production, looking maybe for some help, for some co-prod.
And he reached out?
And then a friend of mine, Gary, was friends with him, and then, connected us. He sent an email,
Gary.
and she was like, just let me know that. And I was like, wait, this is super cool. And I listened to Runner's music before, and the Skull Crusher stuff. So it was all familiar too, and it was definitely in the vein of like, this is what I was imagining, this kind of organic, more, what I'm looking for. And so then we got in together and we had an amazing time, and then we're like, let's keep doing this. So him and I have some songs on this project together that I'm really excited to come out at the beach in every life. That one's gonna be great. But he just came down to Florida. Sailor Song, we passed it back and forth. So I did the first demo, and then he sent it to me, and then we
it's an
did that kind of
exquisite
little
song.
Thank
It
you.
really is timeless. No, like it gives me. I think like people are gonna listen to it for like a long time. It's
Thank
crazy
you.
shit. Like I haven't said that in a long time.
Thank you.
No, it's the real deal. Maybe
That's
I did
very
tell
sweet.
somebody the other day, but I meant it then. But that was the first time I said it in a while. But this shit's timeless. And I think a lot of it, like, I gotta say, your vocals, very unique and different, a little different on every song.
Thanks.
And I say with nothing but love, like, it gives Jeff Buckley energy. It gives,
Cool.
do you hate that?
No, that's crazy. I'd never know what to say because that's like, he's the king.
But you give very ambiguous too. Like you could play that for someone, and they could also think that a guy would show up to the studio. Mm-hmm. It's very unique.
Yeah.
Where do you pull it from, and why?
I don't know. I think I just like, my sister always made me sing the guy parts growing up. I'm not kidding.
Wait, what?
Like I would always sing the guy parts in the songs. Like, I would be like, I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid.
It's
So,
really
like,
good.
I don't know. I think a lot of like the music I listened to growing up, like, the Killers. I listened to a lot of the Killers, when I was 15. And I think that the really specific, like, kind of like, I don't know, the way that they sing. I learned somewhere, so I'm just trying to figure out where I learned it from.
Yeah, but why don't like your sister playing a part in it? Obviously, the music you listen to playing a part in it. I mean, it also could be your normal range, but it's fucking fantastic.
Thank you.
Like, and I don't know if your intended the intended consequence there was for it to be this ambiguous, could be anybody type thing, but it lends itself to that. Plus, it lends itself to super crystal clear storytelling. And like it adds to this purity and vulnerability that exists within the records. It's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why, but I definitely noticed it when I was around 19 that I felt that way. And then I didn't really... it's hard because I'm myself, so I'm used to it. So I don't know what it's like to like hear my voice from somebody who's never heard it before, because
It's all
a lot of people like just feel confused, question mark, about it. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's cool.
It is interesting. I'm telling you, you get timeless records out of it. What are you thinking?
Does Sailor Song feel special in the moment when you guys are passing it back and forth, or does that get released and just it surprises you how much it takes off?
Oh, from the moment I wrote it, I was like, I love this song. I love singing it. I'm singing it in the shower, singing it every day. Won't you kiss me? Yeah. I love it. I remember my little sister, when I was writing, because it started with the chorus, the door was open, and she was like, Gigi, hell yeah. And she would be singing it all the time. So I knew that I wanted it out. I knew that it was the next thing once I wrote it. I knew that I wanted to be the next thing. I didn't rush the verses. I think it was probably like 2 weeks. And at first it was just the chorus. And then it was actually from another song that I'd written. Probably like a year before. I took the melody from that verse, which became Saw Her in the Rightest Way. I took the melody from that and then put them together. I was like, this works really well. Which typically I never really do that. But sometimes something fits something else. Like sometimes there's a song written this way, but then there's a better home for it. So that was really cool to do that. And then once we, I went in, I recorded the first version and, had that trumpet. I was like, what the heck? This feels really good. I remember I sent it to my friend Timey, and they were so ecstatic that night. We were just chatting about it all night, and we were listening to it over and over again. So I remember that night very vividly. And anybody that I shared it with, it was something that meant a lot to me. And then I shared it a few times, and each time the reaction would be bigger. But it wasn't until, that one video where I was on the pier, or I was by the rocks, and it was my little sister's birthday, and it was just, I think it was 4 years since my sister passed. It was 2 days before that anniversary. And so, and then this whole, then we start thinking about when is it coming out and what is the artwork, and, people are calling, and it kind of really changed the pace, and it put a lot of things to look forward to in an otherwise, a difficult time, as it always is.
But another sign that she was around and there. And
exactly. And that's the thing. She's always around. She is around because she gave me The Sims, so Please Be Rude. I made a Sims 2 music video with this awesome friend of mine, Elle. Just grew up loving The Sims and stuff. And Celene played The Sims all of the time, even before she passed, was always had all the expansion packs, everything, very deep into the Sims world. And I remember putting out Please Be Rude, and then right after, a little bit after Sailor Song, they reached out once Fable came out. And Fable's about Celene. And they were like, do you want to do a Simlish version of this? And then I was like, hell yes, I do. Are you kidding me? And so I get to have a song about my sister in Sims. And then on top of that, it came out on my birthday. So it was her birthday gift to me, So
it's really special.
Always around.
Does the human being who inspired Sailor Song know that it's about them?
Totally. Yeah.
Do you share it with them like a badge of honor, or what's the deal?
Yeah. It's a badge of honor for sure. It's important.
Is that person still in your life?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a good way?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Sailor Song's our song.
Knock on wood. That's a lucky log. Just knock on it. Good things are going to happen. You're going to ride for the distance.
Sweet.
I can feel it. That's
Thanks.
really cool. That's very, very cool. By the way, you can listen to all of Gigi's music. It's waiting for you on Amazon Music. Link below. Listen to it. You have mentioned that Chappell Roan helped kind of rekindle whatever was kind of lying inside of you when you made your way from one major to another. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I definitely thought about it. I only know from interviews and whatever I saw, but...
And now you're at the same label as her.
Yeah, but I think that, I saw... I think it was, it was probably a few weeks before Sailor Song even happened. I was watching one of her interviews, and she was talking about her experiences, and I was like, yeah, sounds like, I understood every word. And so I think it gave me something to look to. And so I think it's really awesome that, she's spoken about it, and I'm grateful I'm in a position where I can talk about it too. I have friends that are going through, things that I was going through last year, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go. So it's important to just uplift each other.
It's really interesting. I got to say, there's more people leaving labels in the last few years than in times past, but I got to say the breaks have been cleaner. And then these artists that are signed to majors make their way to other majors when the time is right.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. I've seen it. I mean, Chappell. I've seen it with this artist Amelia. I've seen it with so many people. It's weird. Labels, other majors sometimes like to sign people who have already been signed at a major because they have a better idea of who they are as an artist.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's about finding the right partner. And I think that there's a difference between being owned, or your music owned, or being in a partnership. Yeah. There's a difference, and I'm all for partnerships, not for ownership.
Were you surprised?
Artists own their music, you know. So.
Were you surprised that you were able to get such a clean break from your first major?
Was I surprised? I don't know.
People could be really mean in those situations.
Well, I think that it's it was a very, it had just so many layers. It was a complicated situation. And, I mean, I had a lot of people, over there like on my team that I love, like to this day that I love. But I just think like the intricacies or like, you know, from how things land, it wasn't right. It wasn't fair, you know. And I think that you when you're a smaller artist and you're not, you know, popping off or generating any sort of benefit, at the end of the day, like that's what it is. Like they're not gonna spend their time to make sure like, is Gigi okay today? Like, does she have what she need? Is she like feel good? Like, or are people treating her with respect and doing things the right way? You know? And it's messed up because if you're with the right people, you don't have to earn that by being successful. You intrinsically have that because you're human and you have value.
Totally.
And so I think that my decision where I am today was informed on that, you know, because I'm with people that feel like family, and I'm with people that have, you know, respect, and that's what matters to me. So, you know, I think that artists, the like fruit that like is that can be like hung in front of you, you know, the proposition, I think it's just about like what matters to you and what are you willing to compromise and sacrifice. And because there's always going to be like sacrifices when you're doing business, but I think it's difference between like pros and cons versus something like, again, ownership or like, am I going to be fairly compensated?
But to be fair, you also had the leverage, right? You crafted a hit song independently, and
Yeah.
then like, again, like the universe, man,
Mm-hmm.
like that is.
It was sweet. You know, and I thought about like when I had first left, I thought in my mind, like you know, there's the heartbreak and disappointment, there's the ego, there's the sense of like, was this my only chance at this, you know, or, you know, wanting to vindicate yourself in the situation. But then like so much of At the Beach and when it was written, I discovered so much about myself. You know, I know how much I matter to my family and to my friends and to my animals and like to the community I had already built, you know, like to every single person that I connected to, you know, through the music, that there was no like, oh, I finally like, I don't know. I think that piece, that like that insecurity piece of like, oh, I proved this wrong, like these people wrong or whatever. Like I don't do it for that. And I think I'm really grateful that it kind of happened in that time where I was able to you know, heal those wounds to an extent, you know. And I think constantly, like, you know, when you're in a career where like you're sharing yourself constantly and you're, you know, speaking with others and, you know, you get to receive so much feedback from others, it's always something that I feel like I'll have to keep in check, because it's not just like, oh, I check this off. Like, you never know what can happen tomorrow. You know, this business is very up and down in every single way. And so what is that thing you count on? And I think it's the people around you.
That and the fact that you need to write songs to live, and I feel like you genuinely write songs for yourself and not for anybody else.
Yeah, it's like literally survival. Like it was survival when I was 15.
And now it's even more survival.
I know.
Feel,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Is there anybody you talk to the way you talk to like a pen and paper when writing a record?
Totally. My sister, my best friends, and you know, my mom and dad too. You know, I think that it's important. And I'm glad that I have those close relationships, because I don't feel like alone, you know.
I appreciate your time and energy today.
Of course.
You got to get out of here. They're wrapping me up, but I can talk to you for a long time. Sugar Water's a great record.
Thank you.
Can you just quickly tell us how you landed on At the Beach in Every Life for the title of the album?
Yeah. At the Beach in Every Life came, and I mean, we were just talking about this. I wrote it an hour after I found out I was being released from my first record deal. And I was on the phone with the person I love very much. And she was just there. And, through when I was just like first starting music and, playing shows just for fun and different stages of my life, and it hit that point, and she'd seen so much of like what I'd been through and so much of, what we were talking about was my value and how that doesn't change because of whatever decision a company makes about you or what they decide that doesn't reflect on who you are. And so I felt like even though I was going through this hard thing, I was like, I feel like I won because I have this person. Like I won. Like winning is not, winning the whole dream, the whole dream that you think is the dream. Winning is who's sitting in front of you, loving you right now. And I wrote the song At the Beach in Every Life, and it came from this one part where I said, if all my dreams come up empty, and I was missing Florida a lot too, because I was in London at the time. If all my dreams come up empty and I wash up on the shore, you would find me at the beach in every life through every door. With the boombox at your father's, walking with you at the morgue. You don't have to search when I know everything you're looking for. And it's the sense of like, I'm going to be there every single place you are, every single place you are, and find you. And that's how I feel like I was found, and I found so much back home in Florida, through dealing with the grief and the questions of, what is my worldview? What is God? And at the center of it, I was loved so much through all of these things. So that's like my success.
What a hard yet beautiful time in your life that bred and birthed this incredible album that is vulnerable and raw, but yet still catchy and timeless. So listen to it, please. At the Beach in Every Life is waiting for you on Amazon Music. There's a link below. I can't thank you enough for your time and energy today. Really, you're very special.
Thank you.
Please come back.
I'd love to.
It's great.
Oh, you're always welcome.
Yay.
Thank you. Gigi Perez, everybody.
Thank you.